Welcome to Patrick's Models and Transports. So we're going to reassemble the motor of the GéGé BB9240 elastic rubber belt drive locomotive. As we've seen in the cleaning, when I cleaned the motor, this is a 3-pole motor. Here's the rotor assembly with the commutator here. We have two washers here at the front, another washer here at the back. It has it's a ring field type motor because it has a ring magnet. We can't call it a pancake motor because it's quite bulky, of course, but it has a ring magnet, so it is technically a ring field motor. It doesn't have a flat commutator like the typical pancake motor. It has a standard commutator like an open frame motor, I don't know, a GéGé open frame motor, a Hornby X04, Hornby Triang X04, and so on and so forth. Okay, right, so you'll see that I've dismantled the motor compared to when I was cleaning the motor. I've dismantled the motor completely with, this is, the motor is formed by 4 parts. Okay, 5 if we also add the brushes, 6. We have the magnet frame, so we have an external casing which is formed by the magnet housing frame. Here we have the brush housing, we have the rear bearing, this bearing, there's a copper bearing in there, another copper bearing here. I did an assembly test last night and I realized that to reassemble a motor I had to slide the magnet out because I had a look. What was the problem? I was trying to assemble this with a magnet slotted in place like that, and when I was putting the rotor in, this little washer was being sucked onto the magnet because the magnet is very, very powerful. So what I did, I made a small dot on the top of the magnet to make sure that it didn't change its polarity. But as you can see, I hope you can see, the magnet is also held in place. Also, where there's a magnet housing, I don't know if you can see this, there are a notch there and another notch here, and these notches have to meet, and this will tell you exactly how to put the magnet in. The same applies here. Of course, you don't want to invert the polarity, so always mark where the top of the magnet is. Put a reference point. Okay, so to assemble the motor, we have to have the magnet off. So what we're going to do, first things first, I'll get a pair of extra glasses. I've already lubricated the bearings with my usual mix of technical petroleum jelly and grease and sewing machine oil. But considering they're pretty worn out and I've opened and closed this thing various times, I'm actually going to do it again just for the sake of the video. So here's my little bottle of marked O and grease, oil and grease. This is a mix of technical petroleum jelly and sewing machine oil. And so I'm just going to steep toothpick in here and just give our rear bearing a drop, and we'll give the front bearing another drop. There, quite a generous drop this time, that went in. Okay, and it's quite a generous drop. Let's not make it too generous because there's brushes around here, apart from the fact that the brushes are pretty far from this source of grease. Okay, I cleaned the excess off, so and the excess came out anyway, so there's no more excess. Okay, right, let's try and not get very greasy fingers because we're touching everything. Okay. Excuse me, I've been doing a lot of talking today and I've got a dry throat. So to assemble the motor, first we have to take the rotor and insert the rotor assembly into the rear bearing, like so. This way the little washer will stay exactly where it is and it's not sucked onto the magnet. So we'll just go like that, pop that in. Right, that's done. Now we fit the magnet. We just, because when I was doing this yesterday, I tried time and time again, the magnet kept getting sucked off, and I realised these motors were assembled in a factory by workers, and I don't think the workers wanted to, you know, every time have the wee washer flying away and getting stuck onto the magnet. So I just looked at it, took it out, I pulled this out, and I said, right, so this is the procedure for reassembling these motors. Put the rotor into the rear magnet frame, fit the oh my, it's so strong really, it's fantastically strong, this magnet. In fact, we'll have to sort of go through here and make sure that it doesn't take away the front. It's incredibly powerful, you can really feel it. It's a very, very, very powerful magnet. Very strong magnet. In fact, ring magnets generally don't lose their power. They don't need to be remagnetized. Okay, that's us fitted in. Let's just pop that well on like that. And now that that's fitted in, we just take the front brush housing part and pop it in place. That's already nicely greased. And we just put that in, and there's the motor reassembled. Of course, you'll see that the motor, now we have to fit the brushes, but the motor doesn't have any form of no screws to hold it together. The motor is held together by the actual chassis of the locomotive. But I'm actually going to fit the brushes. I think I'll just fit this to the chassis of the locomotive now, because otherwise it'll become very tricky to fit the brushes, because I can't get the brushes in, because the thing keeps coming apart. So we're just going to take this. You'll see that I made a white point of reference on the chassis here. I hope you're seeing what I'm doing, as I'm too far away from the camera as usual. I made a white point of reference there, and another white point of reference on top of the motor, so that I know where to fit, where to go in. So I'm just going to sit that on the chassis and sit it where the screws are. There's a screw there and a screw here, and I'll just tighten it down, and the chassis holds the motor together. Let's get the screwdriver, and then we'll fit the brushes in once we've got it back onto the back held in place, because otherwise it becomes impossible to handle. Okay, is that going in? Let's see. Interesting motor, very interesting. And the thing is that the motor, I tested it. I did a test on the layout, just running it on the track. There, that's that in position, held in position by the motor turns nice and smoothly. Okay. Of course, now we'll have to, probably at the end I'll add a little bit more grease lubrication to the bearings at the end. So that's the motor held together. And now we just tighten this screw, these two screws, just held in by two diagonal screws, and screwed directly onto the chassis. And now we'll get these the brushes back in. So we have two brushes. This one goes over there, and this one is actually over here. I want to make sure my hands are not dirty when I'm handling the brushes, because otherwise we don't want any lubrication on the brushes, of course. So one brush goes above here it is, the one that's marked, because one of them I had marked in white. Okay, this one here, because I want to respect the position of the brushes on the commutator, so I'm going to fit this one here. You can see I made a white dot here, reference point, and I marked this one here also in white. Right there you can see the white dots. So I'm going to pop this one in first, and that goes on top of the commutator. We'll just give it a wee bend down. It's nice and flexible, so it should be okay. That's one. That's good. Let's get the screw. I've got both screws. I can feel it pushing, I can feel it pressing down on the commutator. I'll just screw that down like that. And that's nicely held down, no problem. Then, when we refit the wiring, we just need to slacken the screw and slide the contact plate on here. Very simple. I'll test this without fitting the how do you call it, the suppressor. So we'll just turn the motor round to the other side. Here's the other brush. Pop it in upside down. Cleaned all these contacts, so everything should be okay. And just go down and up, upward movement. It's caught in position by the plastic brush holder. Let's just take the screw, stick it on, fit it onto the magnetic screwdriver, magnetized screwdriver, and we just go in here, and it's a self-tapping screw. It screws directly into the plastic of the brush housing at the front of the motor. Okay, there we are. That's the motor reassembled, and you can hear it touching and rubbing on the commutator. So that's that refitted. And now in a second video, I don't have a controller over here. I have to set up a controller, and we'll do another video where we do the test of this. We'll test it. Okay, if you liked the video, if you have any other experience with these GéGé motors, please let me know in the comments. And if you find you like the video, find it useful, you can give it a like, of course subscribe to the channel, and obviously click the notification bell. And that's all for the moment. I'm going to go and get a controller and give this a test, and then we'll also do a test on camera. Cheerio, and see you next time. Ciao, ciao.